Shalom, Aman. Man. Give me a second, sorry. All right, hopefully everybody's doing well. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer, and it is in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect. Tonight's message, Aman, Shabbat Yahweh, Yahashadal, Lam Yahashadal, Tada, Achiyat V'Chiyat Zion, Atnaik Wavaik, Wachilat to Christ, Man Shalom Chi. Hello, everybody. I am Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, but we are always changing lives, one mind at a time, but being the voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. I know there's noise in the background, but let me know if you can hear me. Mic check 1 2. Hopefully you can hear me. While you're doing that, we give our honor and praise to the Most High. We give our praise and honor to Him for my wife, the Honorable Alma, who lives a life that is able to be honored. As always, you can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N. Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. You can hear. Cool. All right. Thank you. How you doing, Sister Tamika? How you doing, Bruda? How you doing? Double OG, Triple OG, Sister Monica on fire. Zyrone, if you're still on, Alan, Sylvia, Sister Sylvia, excuse me, everybody, Lie Dyer, everybody, how are you guys doing? Prayerfully, we'll have more in attendance. Looks like it's been taking a little while for persons to see that we're coming on and get the notification, but we're thankful and grateful. How you doing, Sister Beck? How you doing, Minister Stephen? Alrighty, we're going to go ahead and say our Bible pledge, and we'll jump right into it. This is my Bible. This is my sword, and this will I trust. For Yahashua is Lord. No sword of God shall ever be heard. For this is my Bible, and this is Yah's word. Atsham Yahweh, Aman, which is in Yahweh's name. Amen. All right. And how you doing, Sister Nakia? All right. Tonight, how you doing, Cole? Tonight, we're going to talk about long-lasting relationships. How you doing, Sister Mignon? What are we talking about tonight? Long-lasting relationships. All right. And this is going to be simple. Well, excuse me. Let me not say simple, because you're not simple. You're not without knowledge. You're not unintelligent. How you doing, Minister Morel? This is going to be something that just is kingdom sense, not common sense. If you're going to be in a long-lasting relationship, let's just start from the jump. Let's just hit him off the top rope with that Macho Man elbow. ¿Cómo está, mi hermano Sherry? Gracias por la presencia. If you're going to let's just hit it off the top rope. You ready? If you're going to be in a long-lasting relationship, be ready to not leave. Right? Can we just hit it off the top? Just straight up. It's too kingdom to be common, right? We're talking about kingdom sense, not common sense. If one is to be in a long-lasting relationship, if you want a relationship that lasts long, are you prepared to stay in the relationship? Right? We go ahead, we play the music, y'all can go ahead and have a great day, right? No, seriously, if you're gonna be in a long-lasting relationship, how you doing, Brother Omar? Any long-lasting relationships takes commitment, because in order for it to last long, I have decided that it will last long. There's very few. There's some that happen. How you doing, Kirsten? There's some that happen where somebody gets in a relationship and somebody's like, man, I've been with this person for 15, 20 years now. But usually you have to have a mindset that this person is who I'm committed to no matter what. Like, persons will say stuff that doesn't really make sense for a long-lasting relationship. You'll tell your partner something. You'll tell your spouse something like, hey, there's always going to be somebody that comes along that's better than you. And are you till death do us part or not? If there is, and that don't matter. By the way, there is nobody better than you, because as far as this is concerned, because you're my wife, you're my spouse, right? If you have a husband, that's your husband. How you doing, Sister Deborah? Right? But in order for this to be an actual long-lasting relationship, if it's going to be a for real, show enough long-lasting relationship, I've already committed myself till death do us part. That means somebody got to go. And even after somebody goes, I might still, right, by the grace of Yah, decide, like as my own father did this, that, hey, until I die, you're still the only one. Right? That's what Yah Test, right? You got to comprehend that the longer the relationship, the more resolve you must have. How you doing, 3 Mars? One mama, right? The longer the relationship, the more resolve. If you want a long lasting relationship, have you decided that your relationship will last long? Right? We can talk about spouses, but anything. If your friendship's going to last a lifetime, have you decided, first of all, does this person, is this person even called? Are you even called? Do you persons have a kinship and a bond where you've decided that no matter what? Because that means that that means that yes, you should never try to hurt me. However, you're a human being. And when you hurt me, you hurting me is not going to be the only is can't be the only thing that I use to say I'm getting out of the relationship. I recognize that I will be hurt by you, but it should never be intentional, and it should never be something just blatant or whatever. Now there are ways out of it that Yah gives, right? Fornication, which is any false image of marriage, right? There's also adultery, right? However, there are going to be many things that happen to you that don't always line up with that. Somebody might say something to you that hurts your feelings. Are hurt feelings going to be something that caused you to get up? Because might I say something? As much as I believe that there's many different forms of abuse, not just physical, right? There could be abuse as far as not giving somebody what they want, abuse as far as like trivializing what they say, abuse as far as your verbal abuse, right? Different things, abuse as far as you not performing as far as somebody's love language. How you doing, Jose? Yes, there could be many types of abuse for sure, right? So that includes verbal. That being said, if somebody says something that hurts your feelings, especially if they do it without malice, if they were not even aware that that hurts your feelings, are you ready to use that and say, up to you, verbally abuse, I'm out? Or do you have a resolve that says, death do us part? See, long lasting relationships require us to come in with a mindset that they will last long. I will bless the Lord at all times. Doesn't mean I want to. Correct? I will. As a result of my will, what will I do? Barak, bless Yahweh. Right? My will lines up with his will. And so I have no choice. I will barak him. Even if I don't feel like it. Even if it's a Thursday evening and I can't find a quiet space and I can't get the signal to work correctly, what am I supposed to do? Long lasting relationships with SOC requires that I be in position and be in place, right? So even if I don't like what I'm getting, I'm going to give you the best that I have. I will bless. I will, but I will, since you're going to see him on the other side of Zion. I will. I don't have any choice. I have to. I've made up. I have resolve, right? Let's look at this term resolve, by the way. If one must have resolve, what does resolve even mean? The definition of resolve. This is not Kofi's definition. This is even a worldly definition, an Oxford language definition. Resolve, it means this as a verb, as an action. If I'm acting, right? So my resolve is an action. An action. It means I settle or find a solution to. So if I have the resolve to have a long-lasting relationship, it means that I look actively. This is in verb form, in active form. I look to settle problems, disputes, or contentious matters. How you doing, Lost Tribe? How you doing, Sister Tia? I will, as a result of my will, I've decided that that's what I would do. I decide, there's another definition for it as a verb, as an action. It says, I decide firmly on a course of action. How many of your relationships have you already decided when you got into it, this is our course of action? That's called vision, by the way. If we could just make that plain. What is vision? A decision that we've made on a course of action. I mean, that's great right there. That's a great but you need resolve when it comes to vision. You got to have the mindset, the appearance. Even you got to have the stomach for that. You have to have the consistency. How you doing, Yehud Tisavoth? Right? How you doing, Brother Raj? You got to have consistency, the grind, the what's the word? The chutzpah. I hope that's not a bad word. I don't really recall what that means. Right? But you got to have that mentality. They call it that dog, that grind, whatever. Are you ready? Do you have to resolve? A long-term relationship requires that I have to decide my decision. I've decided to solve problems. You know that when you get in a relationship, you're going to be a problem solver. It doesn't sound as glamorous, right? When they say it like that, it doesn't sound as sexy when they say it like that. But yeah, you're going to be a problem solver. That means if you bring problems, you're going to solve them too. That means if your wife has problems, you're going to help to solve them. That means if your husband has issues, you're going to help to solve them. Uh-oh. Are you ready? Right? Are you ready? If you're gonna have a long-term relationship means that you ain't going nowhere. It's not gonna be that long if you've already decided that you got one foot out the door. That's why y'all got to be careful with the dating thing, because your dating scene is nothing more than persons trying to tell you. Even the persons supposed to be dating experts keep telling you how to get out the door. You got to show up. Come on, Sister Mignon. Even your dating gurus be out here telling you how, giving you every excuse to make sure that you can get out of the problem, get out the door, not have to listen to anybody, not have to realize what y'all saying, not be a blessing. Like you keep being given every opportunity to give up. How you doing, King D252? Where's your resolve? The ability to resolve over and over again. Here's it as a noun. If resolve is a noun, right? This means the person, place, or thing. So as a person of resolve, right? It means about all this up there, not thinking this person be careful when you're not even thinking about that. How you doing, Speakly Free? Or, speak LY Fee. Sorry, Speakly Fee. I'm not sure if I'm saying it correctly or not. Right, that's Minister Stephen, I believe. Right, but you gotta have the chutzpah. You gotta have the mindset. My relationship. How you doing? Y'all ain't tired yet? My relationship, if it's gonna last long, that means I got to be around a long time. That starts in your mind. That starts in your heart. That starts in your gut. That's you telling your feet you don't get to just walk away because somebody says something that you don't like. If it's going to be a long-term relationship, a long-lasting relationship, you got to be around a long time. Sounds a lot like right. Say what you mean what you say, sure. Especially when it comes to being around long. See, this is some of the stuff that you guys do. Persons talk to each other in long-term relationship, in a long-term relationship manner, with long-term relationship wording, but they're not planning on being around that long. Did you catch that? Right. Persons speak like they're gonna be around. They're gonna be around each other for a long time, but they don't have the resolve. They don't have the mindset that they're going to stay around for a long time. So for example, man, I love you. Like when you first meet somebody, come on, this is your dating stuff. You do this, what y'all do at the club. This is what you do when you go on your first date. This is what you do when you've been around somebody. You know, you say, "Oh yeah, I love you. Ain't nobody gonna be a girl. Don't make me say I do that. Don't do that, girl. You know, you gonna make me fall in love." No intention to have any fruit. No intention to last long. No intention to be held accountable. No intention to make that person feel safe. How you doing, Big Brother Thomas? No intention to create a safe place for not just them, but for you and for children. Just saying stuff. Right. You know how I know a lot of persons just saying stuff too? Because when they actually get around somebody who starts speaking like that, persons will say, "You crazy. I can get around somebody. You just met so and so. You already talking about this, and you're already telling them this is what the children do, and you're already telling them you have children. You're already telling them how much money, blah blah. You're already telling them, that you could see yourself together for this many. Yeah, you're supposed to." But the world will tell you that what I'm saying is crazy. How are you going to have a long lasting relationship if you're not going to be around a long time? How do you have a long lasting relationship if you don't care if it lasts? Now, that's another part of it. It's long lasting. If it lasts, that actually is us getting the word last is telling you that it's going to go through something. Right? If somebody asks you, how long will this last? Right? How you doing, D? If somebody says, how long will this last? That is giving us some kind of indication that they're saying we got to go through something. You got to last something. There must be endurance. If you're gonna go on a long run, you can't go on a mile run if you can't run 100 yards. And you can't run a mile like you would run 100 yards. Even if you're a great 100-yard dash runner, if you try to sprint 100 yards like you're running 100 yards, and then you try to run fast for the rest of it, even if you're the greatest runner of all time, you'll mess up because you have to pace yourself. Right. And thank you for the love. See, sisters, when you run into somebody, you want a husband that allows you to what? To pace yourself. A husband of Yah will allow you to pace yourself because he's not coming for a sprint. In a sprint, yeah, everything's fast. Oh, they did this, and we went on vacation, and he did blah blah. And then as soon as he finished fast, he got a fast finish. As soon as he finished, where is he at? Bavakasha, Akhir, Aminyan, right? Like, if you're gonna have a long-lasting relationship, it has to endure. It has to last. You have to be around. Where is your pacing at? If you flooding the market with your stuff and you giving your stuff away, there is no patience. There is no endurance. Hello, Charles. Yes, we were on TikTok, right? Like, how do you get there and you have no endurance? Real talk, right? How do you endure? I want to endure to the end. Matter of fact, endurance, it says the same. What is it? Matthew 24:13. The one who endures is the same that shall be saved. And you, all these persons talking about saved and prayer, salvation, and all this, but you have no endurance. So how do you build a relationship in order to be saved, and you have no endurance? Somebody says one thing, you can't take it anymore. Somebody says fix this about yourself, you can't take it anymore. You say that you're trying to work out your own salvation. Somebody says, no, I need you to be perfect upon meeting. Right? Like, how many persons do you hear in the dating scene talking about stuff where they say, yeah, when I get with, when I find somebody, they got to make this, they got to make six figures already. When I find somebody, they got to have this and that. When I find somebody, they have to, you know, when I when I find somebody, they've got to make this much money. When I find somebody, this is what their business needs to look like. When I find somebody, this, that, the third. How you doing, Sister Iska? Right? They say all these different things. When I find this person, they got to be this, they got to do this, they got to have this, they got to have this. But are you going to build with that person? Are you prepared to multiply what that person does, sister? Because that's what a wife does. Are you prepared to make sure that you have a vision and a protection for that person, and even have some endurance for when that sister needs endurance? It doesn't need you to come down harsh upon her. If you want a long lasting relationship, you got to have endurance. It has to last. So persons come in, oh yeah, he need to have this, he needs to have this much money and blah blah. Yeah, and then all of a sudden you get with that person, you find out like they live paycheck to paycheck anyways. Right? Are you prepared to endure? In order to have a long lasting relationship, it must last. In order to have a long lasting relationship, you have to be prepared to go a long time. How you doing tomorrow? Right? If you're not prepared to go a long time, you're not prepared for any kind of long lasting relationship. That's just the way that works. Makes kingdom sense, right? Not common sense. How you doing, Sister Carla? Somebody gonna argue that with their common sense, but those who have kingdom sense, those who have ears to hear what Rabbi Hakodash is saying to the assembly, right? To the Qadasham. If you're gonna have a long-term relationship, you got to be ready to be long. If I'm gonna be a pastor for a long time, I got to be able to endure for a long time. You got to be in shape. You got to be lifting. You got to be lifting up the Lord. You got to be lifting up your problems to Him. You got to be putting stuff on the altar. You have to be lifting up, right? Encouraging others. You have to be lifting. You have to be lifting. All types of stuff. You got to be able to take the weight, even to take the glory of Yah. Remember, the word glory means weight. It means heaviness. If you haven't worked out to carry what Yah has for you, you can't receive His glory. Right? Many persons are not even in a position to see and therefore receive His glory. How do you receive His glory? And you can't carry the weight. You can't endure. We got to be able to endure, right? If you want a long-term relationship, can you endure? You want to be decades in, you got to endure. And the reward's coming. And I want to say this on the opposite end too. If the person endures, please reward the person and treat the person like they've endured. I say this a lot. I don't know if you guys catch it when I drop this, when Elder Alma's around or on, or even when she's not. I tell you guys all the time, she has to deal with me, right? She's had to deal with me before. Why do I say that? I say that because I want it to be known that she had to endure me becoming greater. She had to endure somebody who thought he knew what a husband was and still had a ways to go. She had to endure somebody who was a yes man and was so busy making sure he's taking care of everybody else that he would forget, oh yeah, this needs to take care of my family as well. She had to endure, right? This person is my husband, and at the same time, he has a calling that's for this, that, whatever. And he's still going to put me first, but I need to see it in action. She has to endure. And since she's had endurance, right? Patience, longevity, since she's had endurance, right? And has allowed me to become greater and even become more sensitive to the things that I need to improve in. But then guess what? Now she gets treated better. So when somebody says, oh, you just going to let Elder Alma say blah, blah, and you're not going to check her, blah, blah. Well, first of all, that's my wife, right? So let's just start there. Secondly, though, yeah, she's in right. She's earned the right that you haven't earned. Like I don't think persons even recognize this. My wife, like my mother, you know, has actually passed away. So I know that this is maybe easier for me to say than some others. But let's have a honest dialogue, honest conversation about this. My wife comes before my mother. My wife comes before my father. My wife comes before my child. My wife becomes before anybody else. The only person she doesn't come before is Yahweh, and even Yasis still honor her as long as she's not taking you away from me. She gets to come first. Even Paul talks about how, hey, those of you who have wives, you can't do everything that Yah would have used you to do when you were single because he honors your marriage. So that your husband, your wife, they're supposed to come first. Right? And Caps is doing all this stuff, talking all this stuff or whatever. But your wife, she's supposed to come first. Your husband, he's supposed to come first. All the stuff that you've heard, see, this is why you have no endurance. My baby, my baby, my baby. Then you shouldn't be married. See, watch this. You have this confused. The person that you come together with to create fruit is more important than the fruit. That's going to sound wild to you, but it's the truth. Because I'm not raising my son to become one with me. That's perverted. I'm raising my son to raise his own family. I'm not raising my daughter to become one with me. That is perverted. I'm raising my daughter to ensure that she is able to become one with somebody else. I'm sorry that you said, how would you recommend the man and the woman getting to know each other like regular dates? No, in my culture it's different. In my culture, see, once again, even in biblical culture, it's the same culture, but in my culture, it's dating's not even like, so if you're going from the point of view that, I don't know if that's where you're coming from, but if you come from the point of view of the Bible, the dating's not even in the Bible. And if you come from a lot of cultures, dating's not even something that's relevant. That's a very Western thing, and it's kind of creeped into a lot of civilizations. But for real, now I'm not saying arranged marriage is only, and I'm not saying that, but you can't choose who your spouse is. But in our culture, we're raised to be. I'm talking about a cultural perspective. If I just be honest, I can't talk about dating because that's not my thing, right? But in our culture, you're raised from birth on what a husband and a wife is, what a mother and a father is, what a man and a woman is, according to our standards, right? So when I get to a certain age, before I even have a wife, I have a work, right? So I'm supposed to be given an inheritance at age 22. Like I've already been trained on all this stuff since I was a baby, since I was born. Age 22, my parents give me an inheritance. I do what my father does, and I've been his apprentice since I was ages 7 through 9. I've learned everything I've learned through him. Right before it was called homeschool in my culture, we homeschooled. You learn writing from your father. You learn arithmetic from your father. You learn whatever he did. Whatever he did is what you would do. If he was a farmer, you were a farmer. If he was a carpenter, you were a carpenter. If he was a speaker, you were a speaker. So, right. So we learn. We learn. So I watched my father be a husband. I watched my father's work ethic. I watched my father become somebody who had to manage others. I watched my father take care of his wife until she passed away, and then be faithful after death. And he came from a culture to where that was acceptable. Right. So a lot of persons, you don't really have a culture. You don't really have any kind of proper dynamic. You definitely don't have anything cultured because you come from something where it's like every man for himself, every woman for herself. And then you add on the stuff, men against women, women against men. And then it's like, well, is it 50-50? Is it 100-0? Is it Is it, I need a poor man, I need a man that ain't broke, I need a woman that ain't broke, I need a woman that can cook and clean and do all the stuff. She just needs to shut up and blah blah. But if I got as much money that I get to talk to, it's at a place to where it's not even about a long lasting relationship. Like, for real, if you get in a relationship with somebody, you get in a marriage, even according to law, sex is marriage, marriage is sex, right? If you get with somebody and y'all walk down the aisle and you guys get married and you don't have sex for 3 months, right? You can go before the judge will be like, hey, your marriage doesn't count. Why? Because you never consummated. Consummation is important. Been important for kings and queens, even in Europe. It's important for royalty and other places as well. It's important for you. That's what you're signing with your paperwork. That corporation in the United States, or that state even, that is a country but actually goes into the corporative fashion, takes you and gets you to sign away yourself at birth, your birth certificate. And that birth certificate, when two birth certificates say that they're coming together as one, the state allows it, and then therefore your children belong to them. That's why if you guys get a divorce, you go to the state says this is what we're going to do with your children, right? You're authorized. You're going to only do what you're authorized to do, and you live very public or government filled lives, not private lives, right? But in our privacy of our culture, we teach specifics. How you doing, Minister Tamara? In the privacy of our culture, we specifically make sure that, hey, we're out here training up husbands, and they believe in the culture, and they don't change, right? And so when a husband is in his work, he finds somebody who's already qualified to be a wife. Once again, husbands and wives are trained from birth. So the one trained from birth, who's a husband, finds a wife. And when he finds a wife, he finds something that's constitutional within our culture. Once he finds that, then we start going, right? Yeah, everybody wants to be a boyfriend, a girlfriend, or whatever. Mm-mm. He who finds a wife, that means you must be a husband. Means you must be in your work. In our culture, you find your wife in your work. Boaz finds his wife in his work. Adam finds his wife in his work. Right? You're doing your work and you find your wife. Solomon, even with Sheba, even though you can say Solomon had many wives, granted, right? But Solomon finds his wife in his work. Even the wife that David shouldn't have taken on, where did he find her? He should have actually been at battle for real, for real. But what if he wasn't at that work? He was at the work of being the king. He goes and does kingly things, and then sure enough, there he sees somebody who he wants to take as a wife. Now that is obviously a little perverted the way he did that, right? Much perverted, muchos perverted, but that's what he did, right? But in our culture, you find a wife. How you doing, Sister Alyssa? Right? Hold on, am I correct on that? I'm sorry, that might not be Sister Alyssa. That's Sister Noel, is it? I think, right? But he who finds, forgive me, but he who finds a wife finds something that is constitutional to buy, not just anything, not just any relationship. And that's what a lot of persons are looking for, right? But we're not looking for, if we want a long lasting relationship, we should be looking for long lasting results, which means we must have a long lasting result. Persons are not looking for marriage, right? At least not biblical marriage. They're looking for sex, but they're not looking for lawful marriage. So they're not looking for something that's going to exist eternally. If you have an eternal mindset, then death do you part is easy, at least easier. You catch what I'm saying? Right? If you have an eternal mindset, death do us part is a lot easier. A lot of y'all having a problem with the eternal mindset because, right, or a death do you part because you have a problem with eternity. Right? If you have a problem with eternity, you're gonna have a problem with death do us part. Death do us part is easier than eternity. It's sooner than eternity. Death do you part, that's small potatoes. That's not anything serious. That's not hard. That's not hard at all. Death do you part. Why is death do you part hard? Why is it difficult? Death do us part. Is it difficult? Is it really difficult? Death do us part. Is death do you part difficult? How is death do us part difficult? How you doing, Sister Jessica? How you doing, Sister Judith? Or Sister Judith? Excuse me. How is death do its part difficult if eternity is the goal? Matter of fact, everybody's supposed to be married to the Most High. If everybody's married to the Most High, then how is death do its part difficult? If we have an eternal relationship, then death do its part should be easy. You see what I'm saying? We don't have an eternal mindset. So you get into a relationship with somebody who's thinking, oh, I like to just do that. Like, I want to be spontaneous. Spontaneity is cool, but I don't think even persons recognize if somebody's spontaneous with you, they still plan stuff out. Sometimes it's, yeah, let's just go do something random. But for real, let's keep it a buck. Let's keep it a buck, right? If your husband's like, hey, I'm picking you up at 8, make sure that you're ready to go. That means he's had stuff ready to go. He planned it. Just because you didn't doesn't mean that he hasn't planned it. Just like if Yah says, hey, Kofi, go over here. I got this plan. We're going to do this. We're going to move mountains, et cetera, et cetera. Just because I don't know what he has planned doesn't mean he hasn't planned it. He has an eternal mindset, right? Even if I'm just catching up to it. He said, when you don't want to depart from the things that's supposed to be dead, it's hard. Not many consider the life and death or dying. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the truth, But if you're going to, so once again, get back to, I'm not gonna go. We got to get ready to end in a little bit. Praise Yah, right? But I just want to revisit. It's a simple thing that I'm talking about tonight. It might seem like it's wild. It might seem like it's like, or it seems like it's simple. It's not simple, but it's kingdom sense, not common sense. However, I just want to reiterate what Holy Ghost is trying to get across. Anyone looking for any type of long-lasting relationship, it must last a long time. You have to endure. You have to be around. Right? If you can't handle being around, if you can't handle endurance, if you can't handle being there until it matters, then you're gonna be gone. I'm sorry, TikTok, if you seeing me, everybody's saying it's frozen, this and that, or whatever. It says green light here. I just seem to have a bad signal in this place. I tried to move to a different place, as you guys can hear. I'm not where I was earlier this rising. This is the best I'm be able to do for y'all. I'm sorry. If I were to go to my normal phone signal, I don't even know if it has a bar. So I'm right now, I'm working on whatever I got here in this place. I apologize. Hopefully you can hear as best you can. If not, feel free to come over to YouTube or something else and we'll watch the recording later on. I hate to keep saying that to you guys, but tomorrow I'll be in the same place again. I'm going to try to make it work again tomorrow. We'll see what happens. Right. But if you're going to have a long lasting relationship, be ready to make it last. Right? Be ready to make it last. By the way, if it's still death do its part, this is what you signed up for. My last breath. You heard me? If you're going to make it last, be ready to make it last to your last breath. I guess they can't. It's saying they can see me on TikTok, but I guess they can't. Right? The last thing that you're going to is to your last breath. It's to your last breath. Are you ready for that? Are you determined enough for that? To your last breath. If it's still death do its part, we're talking about your last breath. That means until you stop breathing, till your heart stops. Even when you knock out, when you comatose. How you know, Sister Nadine? When you knocked out, when you comatose, to your last breath. That's the goal. That's the goal. That's what you signed up for. That's the commitment level. If you can't commit to that, if you can't do that, you need not apply. Leave the person alone. Because they deserve, if they're coming in and they're really a husband, they're really a wife, then they deserve your last breath. That's what you signed up for. If that's what you're coming in for, they deserve your last breath. Right? Real talk. If you came into a relationship with somebody, and you're talking about making it last long and having the endurance, then it means we're talking about till your last breath. That means I can't breathe anymore. I have no ability. Right? If my heart is still beating, if my heart's still beating, if my mind is still going, if my lungs are still going, right? If I got an iron lung, if whatever it is, then that's what I signed up for. If it's going to be a long-lasting relationship, then I have decided that it will be long. And if it's going to be long, it's going to be as long as I'm dedicated to. And if I'm dedicated to with an eternal mindset, then that means that it's got to be at least in the flesh, is till my last breath. And then when I get a new glorified body and I won't ever stop breathing again, then my love is still to my last breath. That's a level of commitment. Like, you can keep talking about all the stuff that you want, trying to make it this, that, whatever. Like, this is last breath mentality. I can't go back on Yah, right? Last breath. What you gonna do with that? Are you going to continue to be like the world and let them say, hey, whatever? Yeah, you got to commit, right? Are you going to be like the world and keep trying to figure out how many ways you can get out of it? They used to say, how many ways does it get how long does it take, or how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? Now we're looking to be like, how few licks does it take to get out of a relationship? Oh, man, he not making enough money. I'm gone. He a broke boy. Oh, man, she won't go 50-50. Oh, man, he won't give me this. He won't give me that. Last breath. And for many persons, what I'm talking about is hard to get into. I promise you, we're not going to be on that much longer, right? Let me just finish this up. Many persons don't have a last breath mentality because many persons have not ever really endured much. There's somebody listening to me right now. You ain't even tried to endure. Like, you've never really seen much through. You've allowed the enemy to see everything through on you, but you give up. You throw your hands up every chance you get. Whenever you're attacked by anything, and now for the first time in your life, how you doing, Q? You know, and so for the first time in your life, some of you are for the first time having to actually go through something and sit in it, and realize that until your last breath, and be thankful and grateful. Even if, watch this, if Yah doesn't save you by pulling you out of the muck, he'll save you when he puts your soul and spirit in a new body. But you'll be grateful even if he has you stay in the middle of the storm. In the middle of the storm is peace. At least there's destruction happening. My house is going away. My clothes are going away. My job is going away. My relationships are going away. Things are not as easy as they used to seem, but you have peace in the middle of the storm. Everything breaking around. Even if you keep that last breath mentality, you straight. Don't give up. Right? I pray that I preach, thousands upon thousands of more sermons. That being said, if this is the last sermon, then I'm going out with my last breath, preaching the word and being obedient and being faithful. Because I'm not doing this, right, just so that you guys will say, Pastor Kofi can preach. I'm doing this because there's a crown with my name on it. You said your guests, you're asking, how do they know each other to determine whether once again, okay. I'm trying to close up. I don't want to be rude though, because this, I think, might be your first time on, or at least I'm not recognizing the name right off top. I'm not recognizing the picture right off top, but I get what you're trying. But once again, you're coming from a context of dating, and so for you, you think, like, for example, let me do this. Throw this mentality out the window, and then I'm gonna try to answer your question. Throw this mentality out the window first, because it's gonna be difficult for me to answer. You're not really gonna have an ear to hear what I'm saying, carrying this mentality, right? So I'm gonna ask you to put on a new mentality real quick. We're gonna have to throw that one away. So the mentality you're carrying is, I have to go on a date in order. I have to date the person over and over again in order to know if I like the person, or to know if I can be a husband or wife, right? And I want you to throw that away, because you have some places in America right now where the divorce rate is 75%. I think the average is still 50 to 51% divorce rate, and everybody dates. But if you go to countries to where they don't date, the divorce rate is like 7%. So I want you to just take that. I want you to see that, because your mindset right now is, no, I have to do this. The only way it exists. No, it's not. right? But I'm coming from a cultural perspective. So I'm not going to, if you're talking about like, how do I do this without dating, blah, blah, you're coming into a culture where you're looking for, but the stuff is going to remain the same place because it can't correct itself, right? If you can't correct immorality or morality, you can't make something moral by delving deeper into immorality, right? So I'm just saying that, like, if I'm answering you, it's going to be difficult, but I promise you, like, just if you're able to hold that off just for a bit while I explain this, right? All right. Now, and I hope I'm not coming off as rude. I'm sincerely saying it's going to be difficult for you if your mindset is, I have to keep going out on dates with this person in order to find out, right? Now, what I'm saying is, from our standard, we teach what husbands and wives are. Thank you for the compliment, Sister Nadine. We teach what husbands and wives are, right? So we've been teaching this since you were a child. And if not, then you have to unlearn some things and relearn. But on our standard, we teach what that is, right? So when a husband is supposed to already be in his work, what does work mean? Work is the Adagadon, or even the Aragorn, right? What does the work mean? It means that we already are business minded. We're already protecting. We already have been trained by our fathers. We've already been given land. Things that persons don't think are important. All this is important to the finished product. How you doing, Sister Michelle? Thank you for the love. Right. All this stuff is already finished product. We're teaching this stuff. We're learning this stuff. We're guaranteeing that this is going to be part of the culture. Right. So in doing these things and ensuring these things are going to be there, right? We're making sure that we honor that particular code, if you will, that culture, that law. We keep that in place. So when I find a wife, I'm not looking for I'm her sun, she's my moon, we go on walks all day long, this and that, whatever. I'm not looking for that. That sounds nice. Those things will come, but that's not what I'm looking for in a wife, right? I'm looking for a wife. I'm not looking for a date. And I'm not looking to see if I can date somebody long enough for them to become a wife. I'm not trying to sleep with them to see if I like sleeping with them first. Like, I don't need any of that where I come from. Now, where you are, that might be the only thing you think exists. I don't believe that to be the case. I believe you can come down this road that I'm on too, but you have to detach from a very negative way of thinking to think that, like, I have to be put through stuff and then I have to treat this person like a husband or a wife and still not them be my husband or wife, etc. Right? So when I found my wife, Elder Alma, I was in my work. What I'm doing today is what I was doing when I found her. I was actually on my way to my work, right? At that time, everything was pretty much physical, right? I end up being in a place where I'm on my way to my work. When I'm on my way to my work, doing what I'm supposed to do, what I'm called to do, and I'm not big time. I'm really not big time right now, right? But I'm not what some might think is big time. I'm not, having a bunch of persons following me around the world. I'm not doing as much traveling and stuff. I'm just on the level I'm at, doing what I'm supposed to do. My wife is listening into things that I'm talking about on the phone and stuff like that, and sees that, introduces herself or whatever. And I won't say I wasn't interested. I thought she was very beautiful. However, I thought, because I saw a ring on the finger, it was on the wrong finger, but I saw a ring on the finger. I thought, oh, okay, she's in a relationship. Even in that, being a husband. Yah ends up blessing it. She sees it. We talk, we see things before we even attempt to do any kind of go to any event publicly together, whatever. We speak with each other first, long, and talk about all the things that we need to have listed. I met her mom after knowing her for like 2 weeks, right? Pretty much we were married right away because I'm not looking right. And our parents have to be involved in it. Our culture has to be involved. Our brothers and sisters supposed to be involved. Our leadership is supposed to be involved. It's a different culture, right? I've been trained my whole life looking for a wife. And when I find a wife, then I present what's like a resume to her because she's trained to be a wife and she's looking to multiply whatever her husband's doing, right? The two of us were not looking for dates. We were looking for marriage. And so when we found two persons that were talking about marriage, we were like, okay, step one. All right, let's talk about the next step. What we're gonna, what's gonna be this? Well, this is what I have. I come into the relationship with this baggage, blah, blah, but I also come with this blessing. By the way, I'm not a pastor as of yet. I'm like an assistant pastor, but I'm on my way to becoming a pastor. And I don't think it's gonna be like anything I've ever really seen before because I'm looking at being very strict with the Bible, etc. Right? So it's gonna look different, blah, blah. In that time, we didn't even have the same religious belief. if I be honest with you, which I took pause at. I was like, okay, but then Holy Ghost said, no, this is your wife. Look at this, look at that, right? She's hitting all these marks, but she was willing to listen. She was willing to come to the services. She was willing to, right? So it's like, okay, like there's a lot of stuff that had to come into agreement, but in a short amount of time. But I was looking for specific things that a wife would do, and she was looking for specific things that a husband would do. We weren't coming looking for, you know, is this person somebody I like enough to think that they might be a husband or wife? We were coming like, hey, if you're not a husband, if you're not a wife, and if you're not looking for such, you're wasting my time, right? And so here I am now in the decades with my wife and with my family and with others who are part of my family, and I share some of the things that we went through. So I've walked through this. So what I'm saying is, if you're coming in with the mindset that the only way this is going to work is that you got to know somebody this long, and you got to vet them, and you guys got to, hold hands this long, and you got to have this many kisses, and you got to have 20, 30 dates, or you got to make sure that you travel together, you got to make sure you slept together enough. That's not something that's necessary. That's something that you might believe to be necessary because of the culture that you're raised in or whatever, but that's not anything that's actually necessary. You said your wife told you she wasn't looking for a boyfriend yet, You said you think he's trying to understand how to get to know someone without dating, but there are lots of ways. Yeah, that's true. Thank you for that, Sister Tia. So there are lots of ways, and I don't know. So maybe that's it. Thank you, Sister Tia. So, but there's lots of ways, like even in that, by the way. So once again, families are involved. So guess who I'm going to talk to? I'm going to talk to her parents. Guess what? I'm going to study her parents. And guess what? If we grew up, so this is also supposed to be about a culture, about persons who know each other. If family members know each other, then I'm like, oh yeah, like, so and so. So we could have even grew up around each other or grew around the same persons. My wife and I were always in the same vicinity, never knew each other personally, but we knew a lot of the same persons, or at least a lot of the same places. Right. So there's a lot of different things. So like I say, I'm coming from a different point of view, cultural wise. For me, where I'm coming from, I was never really looking for dates. And I was raised in the United States of America, so it's possible, right? I was actually raised over here, even though I have a culture that's otherwise, but I was actually raised in the United States Corporation, raised right near the Capitol in the DMV, or what you call the Capitol, right? It's really the territory, Washington, D.C., but nevertheless, right? I was raised in the stuff around it. And I won't act like I never went to a prom or never went to, whatever. But my mother, she's passed away, but my mother taught me from when I was 6. And I never knew what it meant, but I knew from age 6 that from age 6 on, she kept telling me, "Don't bring any girl to my house unless she's my wife." My mother said that, and my father still lives at the same place that mother and him were at before she passed, and I've never brought anybody there except my wife. Even if I went on a little what you call date, I don't know if you would call homecoming. I guess that's a date, right? But I wasn't raised looking for, I never had a girl that I dated for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever. Like, no. If you're a wife, then we need to do this correctly. And we need to, and once again, like we were saying, one of the biggest things that's there, right, is even the mindset of a long lasting relationship means what? I must be there a long time. So she came with the mindset of like a lot of nonsense goes away, even a lot of fighting goes away, or fights get squashed really easily when you're like, okay, but we're gonna be together for like 80 years. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna be together for a really long time. We're gonna be together when we both can't walk anymore, right? So we might as well stop this. Right. When I'm getting up and I'm putting my hand on my back and I'm telling persons to get off my yard from my porch, right? Like I'm still gonna be with my wife. So if that's what's going on, a lot of stuff goes away. A lot of need to do stuff or even to do things, even to impress. I do things to make my wife happy. I don't know if I try to impress my wife, and vice versa. Even though my wife impresses me all the time, but she doesn't have to do things to impress me. Who she is enough, because she's a wife and she's my wife. And I made a decision, just like she made a decision. Even when persons be like, well, you don't know this person enough. What if somebody comes that's different or whatever? That's like that whole 80-20 rule. Like you might find somebody, she could run into somebody who speaks better than I. She could run into a bunch of guys who make more money than me. She could run into a guy, I'm 6'5.5". There's always a guy out there that's 6'8", 7 feet. You know, there's a guy that plays in the NBA, you know, who would dunk on me and then push me to the side and then come up and offer himself to her and be like, lose that, you know, what's that old saying they used to say back in the day, that corny thing, lose the zero, give it the hero, right? And my wife would look at him as a zero and look at me as the hero, even as I'm the person that got dunked on or whatever, because our wavelength isn't based off of the physical stuff only. Like the fact that the first things first, somebody even put, I think it was Bruta put it in there, maybe it was double OG, triple OG, commit, like committed. We're committed. So there is nobody who's ever going to be on the level of my wife. It just is. It's just the way it is, right? I committed to her. You know, that's like a huge deal, right? Even if you look at instincts of animals, if a duck is born and the duck sees you as the first person, supposedly, right? If the duck sees you as the first person it sees, right? What happens? The duck imprints. If the shepherd is around and the lambs are being born, what happens? First person to see. You have to have a mindset where you say, look, you know, I'm going to be celibate. Big problem with a lot of persons don't have because you have so many soul ties in your sexuality. I'm going to be celibate. I'm going to be chaste. Chaste doesn't just mean celibate, by the way, right? It means to be holy. I'm going to be celibate. I'm going to be chaste. I'm going to be focused on my mission. I'm going to be in submission to the mission because the husband should be in greater submission than his wife. Because submission doesn't mean, it's not submission, it's not subwomanship, it's submission, submitted to mission, not submitted to the person. You say, you know, that's right. You love to do things for your wife, cherishing her as Holy Father wants you to. Yeah. Right. So when it comes to this, that's why you can even have persons who've never met. See, watch this. I said this was going to be short, but now we're delving into some waters I can't just leave by themselves. I'm about to make a statement, and this is going to it might infuriate some of you. It might be weird to some of you, but it's culture. It just is, right? I'm not saying that you have to do this because I know for many of you, you probably could never bring yourself to do this because you've been raised so differently than the culture of the Bible. But if you're a husband or a wife and you trust in Yah, and you trust in your parents, and you trust in the culture, and you trust in how everybody's raised in that culture, you don't even need to see your wife or your husband until you get married. That sounds like a really wild statement. I get it. It is. And it's not necessarily even the Bible says you have to do it that way. Just hear what I'm saying. This is why community and culture matters, right? Like this is why community and culture matters. If everybody in your community is raised the same way, as far as husband and wives, then everybody's going to be a husband or wife. In your mind, see, this is why a lot of marriages don't even work still, because you're thinking, if this person doesn't perfectly fit me. To be equally yoked doesn't mean they perfectly fit you. It just means that they know what they're supposed to do on their side, and you know what you're supposed to do on yours. Equally yoked, rather. So I said perfectly yoked, equally yoked, right? If you're equally yoked, right? If you're equally yoked, you and your spouse. Now you still need to be led by Holy Spirit. There's a lot of different things that are supposed to happen. It's not just as simple as, hey, we'll just pick two names out of a hat and y'all get married. No, that's not how it happens, right? What I'm saying though is that you have families that are supposed to be involved in this. Teaching and training that's supposed to be involved. Thank you for the love, babe, by the way. Sorry. Right. You have the Holy Ghost. You have spirituality. You've been trained. Like I said, this is, if it's perfect, then it's supposed to be. That's why we have to release a lot of the mindset that we have and be born again and go through the gestational period and learn how to walk. Be on the sincere milk first. See, a lot of persons get saved and they're like, "Ooh, okay, I'm ready to get a saved husband." No, you still drinking milk. Isn't that perverted to have a baby, be married? Wouldn't you think that's weird to have a newborn married to a 15-year-old? That'd be crazy. Okay, thank you, Sister Michelle, for the gifts, right? Thank you to everybody for the love, right? But it's crazy. You just got saved, so to speak, yesterday. You just came into recognition of who the Most High is yesterday, right? And now you sitting up there talking about, "Ooh, now that I'm qualified to be." No, you qualified to get the sincere milk, and it takes a minute to go from milk to meat. right? Like if you still have a mindset of trying to date and do this and blah blah, like you're not that separated from it just because of yesterday. And even when you get born again, like I said, first you go through the gestational period. It takes a while to be born again. Everybody acts like you just born again just because you said a prayer of salvation. The prayer of salvation doesn't even exist. This is a long-term relationship. You got to be able to endure. Therefore, in order for it to be a long-term relationship, you have to be ready to be there for a long time. If it's a long-lasting relationship, you must be around for a long time. And that means you must be trained to be around for a long time. All right, I'm gonna leave it there. Thank y'all. Love y'all so much. We went a little extra. Appreciate love y'all. I'll be on tomorrow. We'll finish up Matthew 13 on Kofi underscore 43 on TikTok and all our other social medias, including YouTube as well. Well, we'll only be on for a short time, comparatively. I'll probably be on till about 10 a.m. Eastern New York time. So prayerfully you guys can join us, and I'll try to figure out signal, even if I have to walk somewhere else or go somewhere else to find it. But we'll try to be better for the signal for you all. I know it's been tough both earlier today and this evening. So it seems to be the signal here just doesn't work that well, no matter where I go. But y'all pray for us that we have a better signal. We hope that you guys have a great day. Hopefully you learned a little something today, even though it's something that might seem to be something that's not necessary to go over, but prayerfully it makes kingdom sense. It helps you to come out of common sense. And until tomorrow, please remember as always. Oh, and brothers, I've been putting that. I didn't put it on TikTok yet because I try to wait on TikTok because we be having persons come on where we put stuff on TikTok a little too early, and then we get the wrong persons on here who are trying to manipulate and stop things and do all types of stuff that messes stuff up. But I did put it on Facebook. I did put it on YouTube, and I did put it on different spots. I don't know if I put it on WhatsApp yet, but we do have the men's stuff as far as at least flyers and stuff like that, Zoom link, and the time. I believe it's going to be 2 p.m. Eastern New York time, which means that when we get over there, the brothers that are going to be showing up physically, that means we'll be doing it 1 p.m. Over there. All right. So love y'all. Take care of yourselves. We give our honor and praise to the Most High. We give our praise and honor to Him for my wife, the Honorable Amma. And remember, as always, fam, that you are loved, you are necessary, you're majestic, you're fearfully, wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in the system no longer have to be of it. Shalom. Take care, family. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace.